Hi everyone, for today's review we're going to look at Toy House Factory's THF-03 Dynastron. So this is the front of the box. They've got some interesting artwork, and on the sides we see pictures of the prototype, the back, some of the features that you see, exactly the same as the original MP, and more prototype photos on the side. So this box is the same size as the original Masterpiece. I will make some comparisons with the original MP, and to do that I will put the original MP box on the left and the THF on the right, and we can get down to doing things. Let's unbox him. Out of the box, he's packed exactly the same way as MP Megatron, but he has some extras. Comes with 2 sheets of decals. I already cut one out. And his G1 toy hairy chest plate, G1 toy face, and his THF's own instruction manual, which gives you pretty good information in English as well as Chinese, how to use the accessories, how to transform, and so on. So let's jump in and look at the accessories that make this set unique, that are not included with the original MP. So that's the G1 toy head and G1 toy chest. So you can fit them on pretty easily, like so. Looks pretty good, close to the G1 toy accuracy. And in case you're wondering, those unique accessories like the chest plate and the head do fit on the original MP as well. It's a little tight, but it fits in there. But for me, the highlight of this set is the blaster. So flicking down the switch all the way to the front brings on a purple LED, and pressing it down gives you a very interesting laser blasting sound compared to the original. Moving up to the second switch in the middle. Okay. Yeah, so you can tell that on the THF the transformation sound is louder and sharper, but for me the highlight is when we flick the switch all the way to the back. You get English voice clips.
I will rip you apart with my bare hands. Peace through tyranny. Constructicons, annihilate them. Earth has pinned its final hope on you. Pathetic. What kept you? You're welcome to try.
Looking at the sculpt of the scopes, you can tell that the THF one seems to have a pretty sharp sculpt as compared to the original. This could be due to the lack of paint on THF. Now let's have a closer look. As you can see, really sharp, no loss of detail. And the way to also differentiate this is they've got some sprue marks on the bottom. Extending the scope, you can see, I hope you can see that there's kind of like a wire in there. That's mostly for the LED function, but the original Takara one doesn't have a wire in there. On the bottom, you can see that the Takara one has an open sign over here, and on the THF there's no directions to tell you to open the screw, but that should be pretty straightforward. Now let's take a look at the faces, the extra faces that come packed in. So as you can see, the sculpt is pretty sharp. It's not much loss of detail. I think the main thing is the mouth. It's not fully painted all the way to the edges, as you can tell, and somehow his unibrow isn't fully painted all the way to the tips of his eyes and his forehead, so it makes for a slightly thinner Megatron unibrow. It's the same on the battle damage faces as well. So right now, as you can see, there's not much loss of detail, pretty sharp. Same thinner Megatron unibrow. Looking at the keys to Vector Sigma, the THF one is slightly more yellow, and on the other side has a bit of extra paint slop, or that could be something left over from the mold. I don't know, it's supposed to be flat on the MP original key. Now to the mind control helmets. This one's pretty obvious. It's lacking paint on the back ear. Looks pretty much the same all around. Except for this lack of paint over here, and oh, it seems like there's also a lack of paint on both ears. They're supposed to be more bluish shade of purple. Looking at the guns, there's not much difference. I can't really tell them apart. Oh right, so this muzzle seems to have a larger hole than this one, which will affect how we put in the laser beam later on, as you will see. Looking at the laser swords, the THF one seems to have a darker shade of purple for the blade, and the hilt is a more glossy purple. So let's fit the laser beam in the pistol, the purple pistol. So on the original it fits in there quite tightly. But on the THF, this beam is pretty tight in there. Now that we've taken it out, put it on the pistol, and yep, it just doesn't fit. Just drops off. But since the part where you insert into the hilt and then the pistol, since they're of different thicknesses, you can actually thicken this part easily with epoxy or some super glue, and then I think they should fit after that. And now looking at the battle damage chest plates, it's strange because the sculpt and the detailing on the THF seems a lot sharper than the Takara MP. Just take a look at this cut and this crack over here. It's not even present on the Takara MP. Looking at the Energon maces, THF one seems to be a darker shade of purple compared to the Takara one. And let's try to fit this mace into this posable chain. Turns out it's a pretty tight fit, but it should go in there. As for the handle and for the actual ball, yep, it's in. And he holds his accessories well enough. Looking at the barrel extensions, the Takara one is painted, but the THF one isn't. And for some comparison, you can see that there are still visible sprue marks on the THF. One funny thing is my barrel actually came misassembled, so the top part that rotates, they actually assembled it like the other way around. So one way to reassemble it myself was to pull off this part and then go ahead and undo these 3 screws and then have it assembled the right way up. Next up is the extension to the back of the pistol. Likewise, the Takara one is painted, but the THF one isn't. And in terms of ratchet joints, yep, same tightness as Takara's. Moving down to the back, the THF one is pretty tight to open. Takes a bit of force to do it, but yeah, splits open, and when putting it back together is a nice loud click. But on the Takara one, it should split pretty easily, and maybe the faintest of click sounds when you put it together. And it holds well in the flight poses. Now onto the robot mode comparisons. Overall, the paint on the THF is a more gunmetal gray compared to the Takara, which has a more bluish gray paint color on him. Zooming into the details, looking at his face, you can see there's a bit of a sprue here on the inside of the left side of his helmet, and there are also mole lines here, but that's no different from the Takara. Moving on to his chest, very sharp details, the rest of his arms as well, and onto his abdomen section. He's got a more maybe a yellowish tint on his blue compared to the Takara, which is a deeper blue, and you can see through all the transparent portions some detail in there on the Takara. Look out for the red part, as you can see. You can see the detail going in there. For this guy, he has still a lot of detail in there behind the transparent sections, but for the red part, it seems to be just a silver square or silver patch just behind it. And on his diaper or his pants, there's no paint at all applied over here. It's just a more soft, pliable plastic, but it doesn't get in the way of articulation. And moving on to his legs, maybe you can see some mole lines over here. Those were not present on the Takara MP. And as you can see over here, it's weird that they chose a more bluish gray tone of paint for his feet, which would match the original Takara better. So his feet kind of mismatch the rest of the gunmetal gray on his body, and you will see more of that paint mismatch in the gun mode. Moving on to his back. The back is also just as messy as Takara's, but there are some visible sprue marks here and here. Moving down, apart from that, still looks pretty good. For articulation, he retains all the same articulation as the Takara Masterpiece. He's got a ball jointed head, ratcheted shoulders that go up, come out, ratcheted forward and backwards, bend at the elbow, bicep swivel, very, very tight finger and wrist articulation. He's got a waist swivel, forward bend, goes that far. It's the same as the Takara's, and you can move the diaper front out of the way. You can ratchet his legs forward, backward, thigh swivel, knee bend, more ratcheted ankles, also ankle tilt. Most of the figure articulation is pretty tight, including all the ratchets and swivels, some even tighter than the original Takara MPs, but the one joint that seems to be loose is his shoulders. If you know what I mean, it's the articulation that helps you move his shoulders in and out, but not the ratchets itself. So those are pretty loose as compared to the original Takara version. As you can see over here, it's much tighter. Here as well. Now to put on his arm cannon, you just slide it in like this, as per the original. Fits in pretty snug, pretty tight. But I don't know why on the Takara it's kind of loose. If you can see what I'm doing, kind of wiggles in there. And now to subject them to a shake test. I must make a disclaimer first that the Takara was actually borrowed from a friend and it's been transformed many times. But I've only had the THF for one day and I've only transformed him once. So let's go ahead and do a gentle shake test. Seems pretty okay to me. And for the Takara, okay, yeah. So Takara doesn't do so well, and I think the one thing that really makes really annoys me is how this barrel flap is so loose. But on this guy, the barrel flap actually stayed intact when I shook him. So let's go ahead and get him transformed to gun mode. And if you're wondering while transforming if you can leave his G1 toy face on, the answer is yes. There's enough clearance in there, so that's fine. While transforming, you will come across this pin that will cause some scratching on the original MP. Let me show you. So yeah, on the original MP, this pin sticks out quite a little bit and it causes scratching on this part of the arm. So what you do on the THF is, it sticks out just like the original MP, but you can use a tool to press it in so that there will not be scratching on this arm. So now let's take a look at both gun modes. On the overall, they look pretty similar. I mean, they should look exactly the same, except for the paint scheme, which is darker on the THF. Focusing on the back, you can see that alignment is really pretty good on the THF. Yep, it all fits very tightly together. But now let's go take a look at the closer details. Taking a look at the bottom of the gun, we can now address some of the paint color discrepancies on the THF. On the MP, the colors are blue, gray, and it's very uniform all the way across from the die-cast pieces to the plastic and even the trigger. Looking at the THF, you can see that there are some color discrepancies. They have used the same blue-gray tint on the die-cast parts here and the trigger, but then they go back to the gunmetal gray over here and the rest of the body. Oh, this too is also a blue-gray. And then you have unpainted plastic parts here and here. And focusing closer on some of the paint detailing, you can see that there's some scratch marks on the side of the gun. But I will say that the detail on the handle is pretty sharp. In fact, probably sharper than the MP, if you can see on this camera, on this video. So yeah, and in terms of alignment, this is the only problem that I see over here. The back of the pistol grip just wouldn't go in, but on the MP we don't have that problem at all. It's like it's in all the way. Looking down the back, alignment is pretty good. Everything fits closely, pretty nicely. And onto the other side, more of the same. And another flaw that I notice is these sprue marks over here on both sides of the pistol grip. But these are easily fixed. Close look at the gun mode details, you can see that details are as sharp, if not sharper than the MP. Sliding the scope on, fits really tight and nice and firm. On the MP, it's kind of loose. Putting on the extension, fits nicely. Putting on the barrel extension, goes in slowly, and yep, at the end of it, it's a little loose. But removing it, there's a small biting point where you just have to pull it out slowly so that, you know, we don't scratch the barrel. And taking a closer look at the barrel, you can see that there is just a little bit of paint wear here and here. Overall, I will say that THF has done a great job with this KO of Megatron, THF-03 Dynastron. We can see some differences in terms of the colors, the paint that they used, some of the sprue marks, but there was no mold degradation at all. Details are all sharp. They give you the bonus G1 head and the G1 chest, toy chest, as well as the light up barrel with English sounds. So I would say this is the great purchase for the price. It actually cost me slightly over a third of the price of the Takara MP. If you like what you see, please like, comment, subscribe. Also, do let me know if I missed out anything on my review. I'd like to hear what you guys have to say. Let me know what else you want to see. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching.